Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 2. Now let's start the fanfic. Naruto's first thought as he woke up was that he was sitting in a very comfortable chair. His second thought was that he was chained to a very comfortable chair. Only after that did he start to remember the earlier battle. Naruto's eyes popped open. For a moment he was surprised he wasn't dead. He took in his surroundings, trying to determine what was going to happen. He immediately noticed his three friends were also tethered in chairs to his left. They were in a natural cavern, which had been richly outfitted as a dining room. They were seated before a magnificent hardwood table, set with beautiful china dishes and silver flatware. Naruto didn't see anyone else, so he turned his attention to the other leaf ninja. Sakura, he whispered, trying to nudge the kunoichi next to him. She mumbled but did not awaken. Naruto. Hinata opened her eyes and leaned past Sakura to look at her male counterpart. Hinata. Naruto shouted quietly, "Thank goodness. Are you alright?" "Yes," she replied, sotto voce. Neji used pressure points to disable me. No lingering damage. And you? He punched me in the face until I passed out. But you know me, I'm a quick healer. Rock Lee groaned, his eyes flickering. Then his substantial eyebrows shot skyward and his head jerked up. Neji, Sasuke, he exclaimed, before realizing the situation. Great, Naruto said, now if we could only get Sakura to wake up, we could figure out how to get out of here. Well, everyone is finally awake, a deep, dark voice purred from the shadows. The ninja all looked in the direction of the sound, but could not pierce the darkness. Byakugan, Hinata said, but neither her eyes nor the veins around them changed. That won't work, the sibilant voice chuckled, those chains were specially created, they disperse and disrupt chakra. None of your jutsu will work while you are bound. What is it you want with us? Lee asked carefully. For starters, dinner and polite conversation, the mysterious person answered, my servants are not the most skilled linguists. As he said that, a tray creaked into the room. It was pushed by a young woman. Or rather, the body of a teenage girl. Dressed in a maid's frock, she was in much earlier state of decay than the corpses they had faced earlier. But she was still quite dead. Stop, the self-proclaimed master of the dead said, your aroma is growing too advanced, Honora. Leave the cart. The girl nodded and backed out of range. How are you doing that? Sakura was both curious and disturbed. He's a demon, Naruto answered simply. The others' heads rotated to look at him. How did you know? Their captor sounded amused rather than upset. I can smell you. Really? The demon sounded genuinely surprised. That is interesting. He stepped forward into the light, finally. The monster appeared basically human, though his facial structures were unnaturally angular. But two features marked him as other than mortal. His tapered, elegant fingers numbered only 3, and his ears extended 6 inches before splitting and ending in 2 sharp points. His lavender eyes regarded them with imperious curiosity. Yes, I am a demon of the blood taster tribe. He waved his hand as if explaining something obvious to a child. A vampire, Lee shouted. The demon's face flashed with anger, but then he just looked at the ninja with pity. Hardly. Vampires a human myth, his face clouded for a second, and he admitted, though my clan may have inspired the legends. Vampires drain a human's blood to survive. I take a small amount of a person's blood, to gain a measure of their chakra, as well as all of their jutsu. That includes Kekkei Genkei, doesn't it? Hinata noted, remembering the flyer. Indeed. He grinned broadly. His pupils turned white, and the veins around his eyes expanded. The corneas around his pupils were lightly pink, deepening as it spread out to blood red at the outside. And inside each of those corneas, 3 Magatama circled. Byakugan and Sharingan, Naruto noted bitterly, You stole those from Neji and Sasuke. Stole. The devil clicked his tongue. They still have their powers. And you make it sounded like they got nothing in return. Gentlemen. He grinned sinisterly, and Neji and Sasuke stepped into the light. No, in return for their power, they get to serve me forever. Naruto growled, and Hinata gasped, but both Sakura and Lee hid their reaction. Then those bodies, Sakura started. Call them zombies, the blood drinker offered, it is simpler, if inaccurate. Those zombies are the people whose blood you ed. She more stated than asked. Exactly. And us? Hinata whispered. Well, the demon grinned broadly, as I said, dinner and conversation to start. I am hungry, and am in need of knowledge of the state of the world. So I will eat with you, and you will talk to me, while you plot and ponder your escape. Neji, Sasuke, untie their right hands, and then set the table. You want us to try and escape? Sakura was suspicious and a touch sarcastic. It's called ennui. The boredom that comes with immortality. It leads one to take risks in the pursuit of entertainment. Not that there is much risk, he smiled at them condescendingly, humans can't kill demons. And I doubt any of you have the knowledge necessary to seal me in a rock, or ring, or human. No, if you escape all you could do is go back to your village for help. Why should we play your little game? Naruto snapped. It's called manners, Uzumaki-san, the monster lectured, what separates humans from animals, and high-class demons like myself from lesser creatures like the tailed beasts. Inside Naruto, the Kyuubi growled. Or if you won't play, I'll just drink you now, and find other ways to amuse myself. He looked Sakura and Hinata up and down suggestively. This time, it was Naruto who growled. Sakura looked disgusted, and Hinata shuddered but did not turn away. So what will it be? The monster seemed pleased by their reactions. Naruto's scowl turned into a forced, sickly smile, and he asked, "What's for dinner?" Actually, at this time of day, it would be lunch, the devil grinned. Lunch, as turned out, was a sumptuous affair. Medium rare bacon wrapped prime fillets, steamed, garlic hinted baby red potatoes, a medley of fresh fruits, and grilled sweet corn on the cob. All of the diners were suitably impressed, except for Naruto, who, politely, remarked that ramen would have been better. The monster courteously asked them about the current political environment, the 5 great nations, the hidden villages. They answered carefully, while trying to draw information from their host. Well, the demon seemed sad as he pushed away a plate with the remains of a 7-layer, 4-chocolate cake. It appears that dinner is done. All of you attempted to pick the locks with your forks, with varying degrees of success and secrecy. Naruto even tried using his spoon. And Lee has come far closer to destroying that chair than I would like. But you have failed to escape, which means it is time for me to do what comes naturally. He stood, and slowly rounded the table. When he reached Rock Lee, the taijutsu expert fired a hard punch at the monster's midsection. But the demon caught his wrist, and forced it back to the arm of the chair with inhuman strength. The monster forced Lee's head to the sign. Bending low, the vampire sunk his fangs into the ninja's neck. After a second, the creature jerked back with a look of disgust. He turned his head and spat Lee's blood onto the stone. Worthless, the devil snarled, no ninjutsu, or genjutsu. And your chakra is so stunted I can't even access it. The blooder struck the back of Lee's head with a knife hand, knocking the ninja unconscious. Realizing he had lost his composure, he took a moment to steady himself before moving behind Hinata. I already have the Byakugan, he commented, but you have shown other skills. And a backup might be useful. Hinata shivered with fear as the monster slid her hair to the side, so he had a clear view of her neck. After he bit into her neck, he pulled back with a look of surprise and joy. Delicious, he exclaimed, and Neji thought he was the strongest Byakugan user. Naruto saw Neji twitch out of the corner of his eye, but when he turned to look, the Leaf Jonin was standing still. The vampire released Hinata, and ordered her to take her place beside Sasuke. The girl did so without hesitation or expression. Next, Sakura tried to fidget and squirm to avoid being bit. But without her chakra, the demon was stronger, and he dug his fingers into shoulder and upper neck to hold her still. Sakura flinched slightly as his fangs pierced her skin. The demon drew deeply from her artery, before stepping back, licking his lips. What exquisite control! Medical jutsu. Not something I would have sought, by my servants fight, and smell, better while they are technically alive. And great strength, you are not a total loss, Sakura. Go stand by Neji. He removed her chains, and she moved to where he indicated. You are last, Naruto. I'm curious to see just what you are made of. Unlike his friends, Naruto did not put up any resistance. He tilted his own head, offering his neck. The demon paused, trying to decide if this was a show of pride, or if the human was up to something. Nevertheless, he bit deeply into the blonde youth. You have a demon sealed within you. The vampire spat Naruto's blood onto the boy's lap. You are as useless to me as Lee. Which your guest must have told you. Then he scooped up a drop of the fluid, and pressed it firmly to his tongue. I thought I recognized that flavor. If it isn't the nine-tailed fox. I had heard you disappeared, old friend. Your concern is touching, the vulpine snarled within its host. I would say curiosity more than concern. He waved his three-fingered hand as a dismissal. Wait. You heard that? Yes, the demon presence acts as a barrier in your blood. But while I have the connection, he displayed the still bloody finger, I can hear the beast within. We should take this opportunity to catch up. Why don't you let me out, and we can relive old times, Doroku? The tailed demon's voice was darkly threatening. No, that doesn't sound like it is in my best interests. Then the demon turned suddenly, but that does give me a good idea. Sakura, heal Lee's head and wake him up. Spitting out Naruto's blood again, he practically skipped to stand behind the other three ninja slaves. The healer used her training, and the martial artist roused with a groan. Now free them. Doroku tossed her the key. What? It's a new game, the demon responded, as Sakura rejoined them and returned the key. The two men who still had their own will stood slowly, expecting treachery. So, this game will be simple. Outside, he indicated the passage to the left, you will find your weapons and equipment. Please don't take Sakura or Hinata's gear, to be fair. In 60 seconds, I will order these four to kill the pair of you. I promise none of my other servants will become involved, though I can't say the same for myself. Run, fight, do whatever you want. That's what makes it interesting for me. Your head start begins now. Nodding to each other, the two-leaf ninja ran out of the room. Outside they quickly regained their tools. Run or fight, Lee spoke quickly and quietly. Normally, there's no way I'd back down from a scrap with Neji or Sasuke. But I can't fight Hinata or Sakura like this. I agree, Lee nodded, so we escape and go for help. When they rounded the first corner, the tunnel divided into 3 separate passages. 2 were more or less level, while the third angled downwards. Split up, Naruto asked. 2-on-1 is safer than 4-on-2, and we will have a better chance of finding the way out. We won't get out by going down, Naruto commented, I'll take the right. I disdain the obvious. I will see you outside, Lee nodded again as he ran off down the middle passage. Go, the blood demon instructed, kill Naruto Uzumaki and Rock Lee. Hinata and Neji, use your Byakugan so that I may observe. The brainwashed ninja complied silently. When they reached the fork, all 4 took the left branch. Wait. He spoke his command even though they were all out of earshot. The quartet froze. As interesting as it is, you can't all go after Naruto. Hinata and Sasuke go after Naruto. Neji and Sakura, you will have to content yourselves hunting Lee. The group separated as instructed. Doroku concentrated, splitting Hinata's Karaname jutsu to his right eye, and Neji's to his left. Lee had left behind all but 4 of his weights, keeping only the set that he could combine into a quarterstaff. Even before the quick exchange with Naruto, he knew that the best chance, their only chance, was to go for help. Right, left, right, middle, Lee kept track of his path as he raced through the cave. At each junction, he chose whichever path had the greatest downward grade. Despite the common perception that caves were below the ground, he decided that it was possible they could have been taken up into the nearby mountains. Lee noted that the tunnels varied between both natural caves and human-reinforced mines. Along the way, he paused once, to examine the ribbons of glowing crystal that gently lit the caverns. The martial artist broke off a piece of the stone, but it lost its shine in his hand. Realizing he wasn't going to learn anything, he continued. He turned a corner, and skidded to a stop just before the dead end. I must have taken a wrong path, he said to himself. It is times like this I wish I could use some manner of jutsu to find my way. Oh man, Naruto grabbed his head in frustration. I should have paid more attention when the pervy sage was teaching me that maze-solving jutsu. Having reached a third junction, the blonde teen stopped, staring down each of the 4 paths. I could split up, he considered, starting to summon chakra to duplicate, but if I go down the wrong path, and my clones find the right one, I'll have to backtrack. He suddenly perked up. I could send out clones and stay here. No, then Hinata and the others could catch up to me. He closed his eyes tight, rubbing his hair. Darn it, I'm wasting time. And I should probably save my chakra. Nodding to himself, he took the rightmost path again. Lee slid to a stop as he turned the next corner and almost ran into Naruto. Naruto, he panted slightly, obviously this was not the right way. I will try another path. When the normally rambunctious genin said nothing, Lee's instincts turned him back just in time to let him block the kunai aimed at his neck. The weight he had strapped to his left arm stopped the dagger cold. Lee put his hand to Naruto's chest, and the younger ninja was launched back. What are you doing? The martial artist asked. Are you under that monster's power also? But Naruto seemed fine before, Lee thought to himself. Considering that idea, Lee launched into a quick series of punches and kicks against the blonde shinobi. He observed carefully how the genin blocked and dodged, and after a half-minute, he knew. You might as well show yourself, Neji, he told his opponent. I know it is you. He heard a shuffle, and managed to avoid Sakura's attack, even as Neji released the transformation jutsu. Lee stepped back so they could not surround him. He released the 4 weights and quickly assembled his weighted staff. He caught Sakura's foot on his weapon as he tried to find a way to fight back without hurting his friends. The last Uchiha quickly signed, and spit out a stream of fire. Without the final, vocal seal, the fireball jutsu was not at full power, but was still enough to blow away the shuriken and send a mass of flames at Naruto. The blonde shinobi countered by summoning a Rasengan, deflecting the attack away from both himself and Hinata. And in return for his kindness, Hinata charged him. He recognized her stance of the 8 trigrams Holy Cyclone, the improved version of the heavenly spin that she had devised during their training. The Holy Cyclone could neutralize the Rasengan almost every time, and in many cases, survive the encounter. It was also larger and more damaging than the heavenly spin. But Naruto had a theory he had yet to test. Anime and manga, Rasengan, he exclaimed, creating a second sphere in left fist. As the deep purple energy dome sprang forth from Hinata, he thrust both of his spiraling spheres forward. Though the phrase, harmonic dissonance, may have been way over Naruto's head, he understood the principle at a very basic level. The two globes both shuddered when they struck Hinata's barrier, but ultimately won out. The holy cyclone tore apart like paper, and the unsuspecting blood slave was knocked to her knees. Naruto did not press his advantage, instead keeping one Rasengan trained on each opponent. Hinata, please stop, Naruto begged, I don't want to fight you. Sasuke aimed a punch at Naruto's head, but Naruto swung up his left hand and the twice traitor had to hold his attack to avoid losing his hand. Hinata, I know you are stronger than this. You don't want to hurt me, he pleaded with her. In the middle of lifting her leg for a kick, she paused, and replaced her foot. A look of confusion flitted across her face. Then her visage emptied again, and she crafted her own Rasengan to counter his. She's still in there, Naruto thought, just like how Neji reacted when Doroku said Hinata is stronger. You know that won't work, he told her gently, my Rasengan is still stronger than yours, and you are still limited to one at a time. I think you are trying not to hurt me. He reinforced the sphere in his right hand, and brushed his Rasengan to hers, destroying it. Sasuke jabbed with the Chidori, but like the previous night, his movements were off. Naruto wondered if it was a side effect of the blood control, or if his rival was injured. He elbowed the Sound Ninja's ribs, forcing him back, while the Leaf Ninja continued to focus on the Kunoichi. Doroku again ordered them to kill Naruto, this time with a harsh edge. Thought he could hear Sasuke and Hinata's thoughts such as they were, and see via the Karaname jutsu, he could not hear Naruto, and thus could not determine what jutsu the boy was using to disable Hinata. As the demon had suspected, the genin was loath to harm the girl. Obviously, he knew another way to disable the Byakugan user, and the vampire wanted to know what technique it was. Hinata slowed again, her lips trembling. Always proactive, Naruto pushed his advantage. These last few months have been the best of my life, he informed her honestly, training with you, getting to know you, growing closer to you. She gulped and took a step away. She activated Tsunade's attack, and lightning surrounded her hands. Naruto sent a clone to keep Sasuke busy, and continued to talk to Hinata while carefully avoiding her strikes. You know me better than anyone else. And I won't lose you. Naruto dropped the Rasengan, and knocked her hands away. He knew he was gambling with his life, even as he stepped in close and put his arms around her. Anime and manga, I trust you, Hinata, he whispered into her ear, as he hugged her tightly. He waited for her to touch him, disabling his nervous system. Doroku swore elegantly. Naruto had managed to knock out Hinata. After all, if she were dead she would just become one of his zombies. And without the Byakugan user, he could not see what was happening. Sasuke, quit playing, he demanded angrily, kill Naruto as quickly as possible. Naruto, Hinata suddenly shouted in a worried voice. He dove forward reflexively, shielding her as Sasuke's barrage of tiny fireballs swept the room. He was struck, receiving a number of moderate burns on his back, but the tough young man ignored the pain as he leapt again, carrying Hinata free from the barrage. I knew you could do it, he told her as he turned to face Sasuke again. Despite his injuries, Naruto was grinning from ear to ear. Naruto, what happened? The last thing I remember, that fiend was biting my neck. You and Sasuke were trying to kill me. But you managed to break free, with a little coaxing. Which reminds me, he grabbed his radio, even as he dodged another attack from the still enslaved Sasuke. He flicked the frequency dial while Hinata stepped forward to knock aside two thrown kunai. Lee, he called their other ally. I am rather busy, Naruto, Lee grunted. Perfect. Naruto enthused. I got Hinata back, with a little emotional prodding. Really? Rock Lee grinned as he circled away from Neji and Sakura. Thank you for the tip. Lee cracked his quarterstaff gently against Sakura's extended wrist, and started talking. I am surprised, and a little disappointed, he told her. Is this the same Sakura that defeated Ino's mind transfer jutsu? The girl who tried to jump in between the Rasengan and the Chidori. Sakura tried to grab his weapon, but he rotated it away, knowing with her enhanced strength she could take it away if he gave her the slightest chance. Neji brushed past her, and struck quickly with his gentle fist. Lee avoided the strike, blocked the next two with his staff, and dodged the fourth. But the Jonin's fifth attack landed, tearing Lee's left bicep. The martial artist nearing dropped his weapon, but gritted his teeth against the pain to retain his grip. Lee jabbed Neji in the solar plexus, pushing him back and knocking the breath out of him. What happened to being useful to your team? He prodded. How will you be of any use, if you are a slave of our enemy? Her next blow was more awkward than her previous strikes, and Lee knew Naruto was correct. Anime and manga. Again, the vampire growled. Now Lee was constantly talking, and Sakura was faltering. But Lee had no ninjutsu or genjutsu, so he was not using a power against the kunoichi. Could he really be disrupting her just by speaking? That should not be possible. His control was absolute. Or are you thinking that this is your chance to be close to Sasuke? Lee swept Neji's legs as he jabbed at Sakura's emotions, because it isn't. Sasuke won't even know you are there. And you saw how that perverted monster looked at you. Sasuke won't be the one you will be close to. The girl shuddered and froze. And what about Naruto? The one who did not betray you, your team, or our village, and who never tried to kill you. Are you just going to abandon him, or worse try to kill him? No, the girl dropped to her knees, clutching her head. One last push, the taijutsu master thought. Well, then I guess Ino wins. What? Sakura was on her feet, livid. No way I'm losing to Ino Pai. Huh, she stopped, confused. Lee, what's going on? Neji surged forward and knocked the staff from Lee's hands. He grabbed Lee's vest, and turned the bushy-browed Chunin over his shoulder, throwing Lee into the wall. But Lee was able to twist around in the air, placing his feet against the wall. Rock Lee pushed off the stone, and body slammed Neji. The monster ordered the four of you to kill Naruto and me. Naruto. Yes, the demon could not control him either. Naruto was able to break Hinata free by playing to her emotions, and I was able to do the same for you. Neji hoisted Lee off his chest, and Lee landed near Sakura. I hope we can do the same for Neji and Sasuke. Inconceivable. Doroku exclaimed. Sakura was no longer under his control. He could clearly see her up and moving through Neji's Karaname jutsu, but could no longer sense her or control her. He could still taste her blood, and access her jutsu, but she was free. The same might be true for Hinata. This should not be possible. There were only two ways to remove a human from a blood taster's control. Maybe he had not taken enough blood. Or Naruto or Lee's blood might have interfered. Sasuke, Neji, kill your target and bring back Sakura and Hinata. He considered stopping his remaining servants, but decided to let it continue for now. He had to learn why this was happening. It's not working. Naruto slid back after blocking Sasuke's kick. He had been plying Sasuke with supplications of teamwork and friendship. But the rogue ninja had never shown even the slightest sign of emotion. Naruto, Lee's voice came over the radio. I woke up Sakura. She woke up when I suggested she had lost out to Ino. That's it. Thanks, Lee. You are welcome. The martial artist sounded confused. What is it, Naruto? Hinata asked. Sasuke isn't really a human. He's just a human-shaped jackass. You take that back, Naruto. Sakura's voice emerged from the communicator. He ignored her. Of course, appealing to his better nature won't work, Naruto continued. He doesn't understand kindness or loyalty. We gotta make him mad. Anime and manga. Alright, save your batteries. Sakura resumed her role as leader, but keep in contact if anything happens. So, are we going to try to wake Neji up? Sakura asked, trying to sweep the Jonin's legs. Neji leapt over her foot, aiming his own kick at her head. Lee caught his ankle and pushed him away. I do not see why we should, Lee answered. Making sure Neji could not see him, he winked at Sakura. She managed to halt the surprised look on her face, and nodded. He left the village without permission, and joined with an enemy, Lee continued, that would seem to make him a traitor. And we have already reclaimed the main family scion, why do we require a branch family member? Neji focused his attacks on Lee. If Sakura drew to close, he would aim a quick strike, to attempt to disable her. But otherwise, he doggedly pursued his teammate. Lee continually dodged, moving backwards through the tunnel, staying just out of reach of the gentle fist. You're right. We don't need Neji. Anyway, Sakura agreed, the demon said Hinata is stronger. Interesting, Lee considered, the monster would have no reason to lie. Neji also told me that he was not sure he could have persevered in my situation. Then why are we still hanging around? Sakura asked. Indeed, why stay? Neji's dulcet tones probed. Neji. They both shouted. So, you finally found your way out, huh, Sasuke? Naruto's tone was conspiratorial and condescending. Sasuke's response was a hard right to Naruto's face, but the genin recovered without pause. It's not like you ever really had a chance against Itachi, he derided, the greatest son of the Uchiha clan. Every time you've confronted him, you've been beneath his notice. And you picked Orochimaru to teach you to defeat him. Jiraiya told me, Orochimaru tried to possess Itachi and failed. Or did the old snake keep that to himself? Sasuke growled and launched another barrage at his former teammate's head and chest. Enough. Sasuke, come back now. The vampire decided he was not going to lose his last, and strongest slave. I think it is time for me to become involved, Doroku said to himself. Neji, are you okay? Sakura observed him with a physician's eye. I'm fine. What do you remember? Lee prompted. When I arrived in this town for the tournament, I realized something was wrong. As I started to investigate, Sasuke Uchiha suddenly attacked me. But he was off. There is no other word for it. He did not speak, even to invoke his jutsu. And his movements were awkward. In the battle I broke, or at least cracked, his right tibia. After that, Sasuke retreated and a number of puppet corpses attacked me. Just call them zombies, Sakura suggested, it's easier. They were not strong, but they were resilient and numerous. We observed that as well, Lee nodded in agreement. When it became obvious I was to be captured, not killed, I pretended to be knocked unconscious, to try and learn what was going on here. Would you mind teaching that concept to Naruto? Sakura asked, drawing a slight grin from the normally taciturn Jonin. Anime and manga. I watched carefully as they carried me through these caves, for any hint of what awaited. After a short walk, they placed me in a chair in a lavish dining room. The blood demon questioned Sasuke, who told the monster of me in short, clipped sentences. When he had learned what wanted, he bit me. After that, I woke up to find myself being insulted by my comrades. I apologize, Lee looked contrite, it was necessary to generate an emotional response to free you from the demon's control. Wait. Sakura stepped closer, if you were awake while they brought you to that dining room, does that mean you remember the way out? Of course, Neji smirked superiorly. Great. She grabbed Lee's radio, and triggered it. Naruto, we woke Neji. He knows the way out. Once you and Hinata wake up Sasuke, or knock him out, meet us back at the dining room. There was no answer over the radio. Naruto, are you hearing this? When nothing but static came through, she looked back at the older ninja. We better get back. I shouldn't be surprised. Naruto kept talking. Sasuke's attacks had ceased. He was now trying to escape, but the two-leaf ninja cut him off at every turn. I mean, it took those sound ninja a whole 5 minutes to convince you to betray the village your clan once honorably defended. And now you've found another new master. Suddenly, the defector abandoned in opening by Hinata, to spit another stream of fire at Naruto. This must be a dream for you. You don't have to fight Itachi, but you don't have to feel guilty for giving up. And best of all, you don't have to feel the pain of your parents' murder. Chidori, Kakashi's former student, roared, his hands surrounded by lightning. Hatred filled his eyes, and, but for a slight limp, his charge was crisp and certain. Naruto deftly evaded the first slash, and the second punch, but Sasuke caught him with a normal backhand strike of his left hand. Looks like you finally shook it off, Naruto chuckled, returning Sasuke's angry stare. Hinata started to step forward, but Naruto shook his head. I finally get to kill you, Naruto, Sasuke stated. Give it your best shot. Naruto, we woke Neji. Sakura's voice suddenly erupted from the radio, giving both men pause. He knows the way out. Once you and Hinata wake up Sasuke, or knock him out, meet us back at the dining room. Naruto turned off the radio and continued to glare at Sasuke. So, what's it gonna be? Naruto asked. Fight me until that demon shows up, or deny him his prize and escape. I don't know how he caught you before, but you probably would stand a better chance of getting revenge with some allies. Lee, Sakura's shout echoed through the cave. The taijutsu expert recoiled from the kick to his midsection, but allowed himself to fall back to avoid the second foot aimed for his chest. Sakura's fist bounced off the invisible wall surrounding her, while Neji watched like a caged predator. Your friends don't seem to like the Nankyu Abara Keke Genkai, the demon noted, slashing at Lee with his wakizashi. Lee had disassembled his staff, and bound one part to the outside of each of his forearms. He used the improvised bracer on his left arm to block the curved blade, and struck the vampire's chest with an open palm. But I wanted some time alone with you, Doraku continued, unconcerned by the attack. You see, I'm torn. On the one hand, you have cost me 2 powerful servants. And the rank taste of your blood still lingers in my mouth. The monster stabbed again, attempting to trap the leaf Chunin against the wall, but then again, this has been interesting. And I have learned a previously unknown weakness of my power. So, should I give you a quick death, or a slow one? Because I can't let you live, knowing what you know. Lee's answer was a leaf gale. The demon jumped easily over the leg sweep, but the Chunin turned his momentum into leaf great whirlwind. He caught Doraku in the chest, sending the monster higher. Unfortunately, the ceiling was too low, and Lee could not follow up with the leaf dancing shadow. The vampire twisted in the air, and stuck to the roof. He glared down at Lee with what could only be described as disappointment. The blood drainer coiled, and launched himself at Lee, leading with his blade. The teen motioned as if to block with his wrist, but then stepped inside and smashed the vampire's wrist with the 30-pound weight on his own forearm. The expected crack of bone was not heard, and the vampire countered with a punch to the human's heart. The attack sent Lee flying. Attacks like that won't work, the demon paused, not bothering to press his advantage. Lee rose, clutching his chest. The jutsu Sakura uses to boost her strength is more impressive than she knows. I can use it to make my muscles hard as iron. Blunt attacks won't have much effect on me. Doroku sighed, and looked away from Lee. This is boring. Perhaps with some extra help you might be a challenge. He placed his hands together, and the barrier holding Neji vanished with a soft tone. Of course I know all Neji's moves. But you humans can be so creative and unpredictable. Or at least he can be a distraction. Neji ignored the jab and moved slowly forward. His Byakugan scanned the demon intently, trying to find a weakness. Then he darted forward, aiming for his opponent's right arm with glowing fingers. Good choice, the demon easily dodged. Without my weapon, I could be slightly less dangerous. The vampire's left hand out, and his gentle fist tapped Neji's left temple. The Byakugan in the Hyuga's left eye faded out. Then with a grimace of pain at the off-center vision, he cancelled the other jutsu in his other eye. Neji fainted low, then struck from the left. He pressed hard, sacrificing accuracy and success for keeping the demon off-center. Well, this is interesting, the demon noted, knocking aside another attack, but you aren't really accomplishing anything. Unless you are trying to push me towards Lee. Doroku suddenly kicked out, and his stolen strength jutsu sent Neji flying. He used the momentum to do a 180, facing the martial artist. But rather than looking surprised or chagrined, Lee just smirked even as he finished throwing the punch the demon readily blocked. Then the plan became clear when Neji's shadow clone exploded and the original surged through the smoke to the now exposed monster. 8 trigrams, the Hyuga Jonin exclaimed, stabbing a chakra point on the demon's spine. 2 palms, he continued, striking the left shoulder and elbow. 4 palms, the speed of his strikes increased as his path took him in front of the blooder. 8 palms, 16 palms, he flowed around his would-be master, shutting down his chakra network. 32 palms, 64 palms, Doroku was barely standing, and Neji was a blur. 128 palms, Neji concluded with a massive volley. But then the demon started to chuckle. Very impressive, he proclaimed, looking to where his weapon had been knocked. I might be in trouble, if it wasn't for one little thing. The demon placed his hands together and intoned, chakra pulse. You see, the monster smirked as he stretched back to his normal posture. Hinata has a counter for that move. I am well aware of the technique Hinata and Naruto developed. Neji's verbal counter was just as smug. I just needed to disrupt your chakra network for a second. Doroku was unable to dodge as the now free Sakura Haruno barreled into him. Fine, the demon snorted in disdain as he rose. His tone was still amused, but his eyes were not. Playtime is over then. As he dropped his arms, the vampire's limbs were surrounded by both the soft blue glow of the gentle fist, and the purple sparks of the Ranshinsho. His eyes transformed under the power of both the Sharingan and the Byakugan. And under Neji's restored Byakugan, chakra spiked out of each of the monster's muscles. I'll humiliate you with your own techniques. Sakura blinked, and missed the Doroku's charge. Before she realized, the demon was trading blows with Neji, this time pushing the teen Jonin back. Sakura started to move to help, but Neji shook his no, then indicated Lee with a glance. The other young man was clutching his chest again, and the medical ninja blinked in acknowledgement. She flashed across the cavern, and gently brushed his hands aside. Using both touch and chakra, she determined his ribs were cracked, not broken, but a splinter had come perilously close to his left lung. She quickly dissolved the shard, and then started to repair his bones. That was a mistake, the demon hissed. He knocked Neji's hands wide, and drilled 2 fingers into each of Neji's shoulders. Muscles tore, his chakra system was interrupted, and his arms flailed wildly from the shock to his nervous system. With the shinobi temporarily crippled, the monster was able to grab Neji's shoulders, and place his face inches from the teen's. As he did, The demon's eyes changed again, the circling tomo becoming blade-like and connecting to his pupil. Mangekyo Sharingan, Tsukiyomi. For 3 long heartbeats, the enemy's eyes were locked. Then Neji let out a pitiable whimper. The demon released him, and Hyuga collapsed to the floor, eyes open yet seeing nothing. Doroku let out a sharp breath as he returned his focus to Lee and Sakura. Well, that technique is exhausting, he commented, but quite useful. Total incapacitation, and no permanent damage. And I also have the technique to wake him up when I need. He nodded at Sakura, then added, of course, that means I need to keep you away from Neji, my dear. Sakura. Lee stepped in front of her, whispering, Gai-sensei has taught me how to fight those with the Sharingan. I will hold him off while you restore Neji. Do you think I will let that happen? The monster asked. He stood over Neji, challenging them. Lee started towards the demon, but Sakura rushed past him. Doroku caught her fist in his hand. Sakura let out an angry shout, and the demon was shocked when he pushed was back. The girl did not even seem to notice the disrupting electricity flowing into her. She punched again, and the vampire released her left fist to avoid her right. Interesting. I have all your skills and more chakra. I should be stronger. The power of the jutsu is based on your natural strength. You steal power, you don't earn it yourself. You'll never be stronger than me. Cute speech. He cracked his knuckles, and you know the counter to the Ranshinsho. For all the good that will do you. He dropped his arms to his sides, expelling chakra. Sakura thought recognized the technique, and both braced her arms and jumped back. Unfortunately, she was too close, and was not aware of this variation. 8 trigrams, Holy Cyclone. The enhanced technique flowed outwards, and the dome of crimson chakra lifted the kunoichi into the air. Ill-prepared for the attack, Sakura could not do anything to right herself before she was slammed into the wall. She slid to the ground, then tried and failed to stand. Alone again, the demon extended his hand, and his short sword flew back to his hand. He darted forward, swinging the blade like a much heavier weapon. Lee moved to block, but Doroku shifted his blade, cutting the weight, sleeve, and some skin from Lee's arm. The leaf shinobi tried to counter with a kick, but the vampire caught his ankle and sent a strong electric charge through Lee's leg. Lee kicked again with his left leg, but grunted in pain when Doroku stabbed him in the thigh. The demon dropped Lee, shaking his head. I expected so much more. The wakizashi plunged for Lee's exposed heart. Clone railgun. Naruto's voice arrived only an instant before the teen did. Naruto's foot collided with the demon's temple and neck, and the blooder rocketed hard into the stone wall. Behind Naruto, the 24 clones who had catapulted him forward exploded, clear the way for Sasuke and Hinata. Sakura, help Neji and Lee, Naruto instructed as he stared murder at the demon, we got this. Ah, good, the second course. The demon pulled himself to his feet, snapping his neck back into place. Naruto, don't look in his eyes, Sakura warned, limping over to Lee, he has the Mangekyo Sharingan. Naruto spared a sideways glance at Sasuke at that, but the traitor did not appear surprised by the news. Please, the vampire was offended, as if I would be so gauche as to use the same jutsu twice in one battle. I have already decided not to use any of your techniques against these 3. Naruto, duck, Hinata warned as Sasuke threw a quartet of kunai at the demon, not caring his former teammate was in the way. After her training partner moved, Hinata added her own blades to the attack. Doroku lifted a hand, and the 7 daggers stopped in midair. Tetsu Kobushi Keke Genkai. The power to control iron. Nice craftsmanship, though, he flicked his hand back, and one of the floating weapons shot at each of the active ninja. The teen shinobi dodged fairly easily. The demon waved the fingers on his left hand, and the 4 remaining kunai melted and merged, transforming into a broad-bladed short sword. Doraku grasped the weapon with his left hand and smirked at them. The Murasama clan that possesses this bloodline trait are also the originators of the legendary weapon Forge Jutsu. Though they had a much easier time performing it, as do I. He flitted past Naruto and went straight for Hinata with both of his disparate swords. She lithely avoided the wakizashi, and knocked aside the gladius. She observed his weapons carefully, and after his 5th slash, summoned a Rasengan. The next time the newly forged weapon came close, she tapped it with the chakra ball. The sword splintered with barely an impact. Not quite up to the standards of the Murasama clan, Sasuke stated snidely. That, the vampire threw the handle of the broken sword at Uchiha, more as an insult than as an attack, that was a toy. Even with the Kekkei Genkai it takes at least 20 minutes to craft a decent weapon. Hinata took advantage of the minor distraction to strike the vampire's right wrist with the spiraling sphere. The demon's hand opened reflexively, dropping the wakizashi to the floor. The girl stomped hard, breaking the blade off at the hilt. "And how long did you take to make that one?" Naruto needled. "That was an artifact of the first Mizukage. It was worth more than all of your miserable lives combined." He punched Hinata hard in the stomach, expelling her breath. Then he grabbed her by the neck and hoisted her an inch from his face. "It looks like I lied. Mangekyo Sharingan, Tsukiyomi." He stared into her eyes, attempting to shatter her mind with his horrors. Hinata's body shook, and she gritted her teeth. Then her eyes widened further. "Suijin Byakugan, reflection," she announced. Though the other 3 could not see it, Naruto and Sasuke were amazed as Hinata's white cornea and iris suddenly turned solid metallic silver. Then the vampire's head snapped back as if struck and he released Hinata. The girl landed on her feet, but exhaled sharply and slid to her knees, her eyes returning to normal. The vampire almost fell back, but with a grimace caught himself, and returned upright, though still unsteady. The eye that sees only truth can become the eye that deflects all illusions, Doraku intoned harshly, the loss of his weapon forgotten, that power has not been seen for almost 100 years. "I must have it." He picked up Hinata again, this time exposing her neck. He lifted her towards his waiting fangs. "Chidori." Before the vampire could steal Hinata's new power and grow stronger, Sasuke darted forward, severing the tendons in Doraku's right wrist. The demon could no longer hold Hinata, but Naruto flashed in, catching the girl. He moved to the opposite side of the cavern, placing her next to Lee. "I'm sorry Naruto," she whispered, "I can barely move. I feel like most of my strength has been drained." "It's okay, Hinata," he reassured her, "you rattled him. Sasuke and I can take it from here." The monster grabbed his wrist, and used Sakura's healing skills to amplify his own unnatural healing. But his head was still spinning from having his jutsu reversed. As Naruto and Sasuke closed in, the monster decided to try a more elusive tactic. "Congratulations, I'll show you another of my Kekkei Genkai." The monster raised his arms, and a dome of ice panels rose to surround the 3 of them. "Hyoten. Demon Ice Mirrors," the demon announced with a self-satisfied grin. "That's Haku's technique." Naruto was aghast. "Did you the blood from his corpse?" "I don't own any Haku," Doraku sneered, as he merged into one of the mirrors, "and blood is only useful from a living source. I have owned this bloodline trait for more than 80 years. He put his hand to his chin in thought, and added, "That is mildly interesting though. This Kekkei Genkai was supposed to have been exterminated almost 20 years ago." A left hand emerged from 11 of the mirrors, and each threw a single icy shuriken. The former friends blocked or dodged most of the projectiles, but Naruto received a light cut on his left calf. Just like old times, huh? Naruto asked, closely watching the mirrors. And you wonder why I left, Sasuke responded, with only the slightest hint of a grin. He flashed a series of hand seals, and then announced, Kaden, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. Uchiha exhaled dozens of fireballs, and each struck a mirror dead center. But to no one's surprise, the ice didn't melt even a little. You didn't expect that to work, did you? The demon asked. Not really, Sasuke shrugged, but it was worth a try. So what's the plan? Naruto asked when the next barrage of ice shuriken drove them back to back. I'm pretty sure my Rasengan can bust these mirrors. The same goes for my Chidori. But he knows it, and knows our attacks are short range. That's why he's keeping us corralled in the center. So how do we reach the edges? Why ask me? Sasuke snapped. You're the brilliant strategist who came up with the way to free Kakashi from Zabuza and defeat Neji during the Chunin exams. All right, Naruto's eyes narrowed. Give me a minute. We don't have a minute, Sasuke snarled as an ice star embedded itself in his right arm. He pulled a pair of small flasks from his belt, and dashed them on the floor. Then he used a slight variation on his clan's favored technique. Kaden. Grand Fireball Jutsu. Flames filled the half of the dome in front of Sasuke. The oil mixture he had spread across the dirt exploded, increasing the size and heat of the inferno. It also filled the nearly sealed dome with smoke. Coughing, Naruto created a Rasengan to help clear the air. What was that? Naruto choked. At least I'm trying something, the traitor countered, ending his jutsu. If I can make the jutsu hot enough, it might be able to melt the ice. And while I fill my half with fire, he can't attack me. So he can focus on me. And you can focus on him. Look for a pattern, or just try to grab him next time he attacks. Yeah, that could work, Naruto considered, then he brightened at another thought. If nothing else, you're forcing him to spend more chakra to keep the dome in place. Sasuke nodded, and activated his technique again. Now that the oil was burned off, the smoke from the cloud of flame was manageable. As predicted, all of the demon's attacks now emerged from Naruto's side. But they were not focused on Naruto. Instead, the blonde ninja was forced to stop a constant barrage of ice blades aimed at the back of his former teammate. Looks like there's a flaw in your plan. After half a minute playing bodyguard, Naruto spoke. His voice was twinged with sarcasm. If I try to get close to the dome, he'll just hit your exposed back. I still haven't heard your plan. Sasuke snapped back, ending the fireball again. How about, now? A rumbling filled the tunnel, and an Odama Rasengan erupted from the ground under the mirrors in front of Sasuke. Just behind the sphere was Naruto. After shattering a column of the ice, Naruto stepped back. Sasuke darted out the hole, as the clone Naruto took the throwing stars aimed at Uchiha. After he was outside the dome, Sasuke activated his Chidori. He quickly circled the barrier, destroying the bottom level. The remainder of the ice mirrors crashed to the ground, shattering. Doroku appeared above the broken shards of ice, clapping. I don't know if you thought that would hurt me, Sasuke, or if you were just being vindictive. The demon smirked as he stopped his applause, but either way, I like it. Never taking his eyes from Sasuke, he appeared in front of Naruto, and used both the gentle fist and Ranshinsho to damage Naruto's nerves and chakra, leaving the boy sprawled on the floor. Naruto. Sakura paused in her treatment of Neji as her teammate fell. But the vampire did not pause, and moved behind Sasuke, disabling him as well. He then kicked Sasuke hard into the wall. And then there were none. Doroku beamed, unless you are ready to try again, Sakura. He grinned viscously at the injured healer. You're not done with me yet, Naruto snarled, regaining his feet. Ah. Neji mentioned you also knew the counter to the gentle fist, The demon turned back to the blonde genin. I suppose this means you also know how to resist the Ranshinsho. Well, then, let's see what you can do. The demon dropped into a fighting stance again. Naruto drew his last kunai, gripping it tightly as he could. But the demon just shook his head and tore the weapon from the teen's grip. The blood drinker gestured, breaking the weapon against the granite wall behind him. Then, for good measure, he grabbed the shuriken left in Naruto's hip pouch, ripping them free, and scattered them. No more blades. No, 2 more, Naruto counted, placing his hands together, weapon summoning jutsu. Naruto's shirt bulged outwards above his heart. He reached in, and removed a familiar wooden box. He removed 2 kunai, one accented in red and the other in blue, and then tossed the box to Sakura. She set the box next to Hinata, and went back to awakening Neji. You waste a powerful jutsu for those. Doroku laughed at him. Then he latched onto the kunai with his iron controlling power, and pulled. But the weapons did not even shudder in the ninja's hands. Frowning, the demon pulled harder, but still no effect. Curious, he engaged the Byakugan and Sharingan again. Well, it's a little sloppy, but those are some powerful enhancements bonded to those knives. He put his hands in front of him, and ice began to form above them. Hyoten. Arctic Edge Jutsu, he noted as the frozen Nodashi finished forming. It's been a while since I had a good sword fight. Unless you had something else in mind. Yeah, how about this? Naruto crossed his hands, multi-shadow clone jutsu. 24 Narutos leapt forward, kunai extended. The demon snorted and put his hands together in an opposing gesture, clone disrupt jutsu. All of Naruto's clones exploded, leaving the confused original open. The monster's extra long blade scored a deep cut across the ninja's chest. Naruto scissored both his blades to pin the vampires. The wind chakra enhanced edges of the kunai began to cut into the curved ice weapon, and Doroku withdrew his sword. Kakashi Sensei said the technique was lost. Naruto glared at the demon. Naruto, I'm older than the Council of Shadows, the vampire smirked. I know plenty of lost jutsu. Doroku slashed deliberately high, trying to get Naruto to look into his eyes. But the teen tenaciously kept his gaze on the demon's shoulders, even though it hampered him. Even though he could tell Doroku was still recovering from Hinata's counter, the demon was able to score a trio of light hits, while Naruto only managed a single scratch. Naruto, Hinata's voice carried to him. She was leaning forward, and her Byakugan was once again active. Suddenly, his vision shifted and he was seeing the monster from Hinata's point of view, and through the Byakugan. The demon's chakra network was a patchwork of different powers and colors. Hinata adjusted her jutsu so that Naruto could see Doroku's chakra network almost from his normal vantage point. Then she focused on a green spot flowing up the bluder's left leg. Strike there, she instructed. Naruto faked a leg sweep, then feinted for Doroku's heart with Sakura's blade. Once he had the opening, he stabbed the indicated area with Hinata's kunai. Blood fountained from the wound, far more than should have for such a light stab. At the same instant, the red color ran out of Doroku's eyes, and the tomo disappeared. Now, there, Hinata urged him to hurry while the demon was stunned. Naruto stabbed the purple patch moving through the demon's other leg, and another geyser of blood erupted. As the fluid stopped flowing, the frozen sword melted away. Left shoulder, she directed. With the attack, the Byakugan in Doroku's eyes faltered. Rage filled the demon's face, and he knocked Naruto away with an enhanced punch. The white-eye dojutsu retuned as he snarled at the girl. I get it, Naruto smirked, you don't eat their blood. You store it in your body. That's how you gain everyone's powers, and how you control them. You may have figured out how my powers work. The demon ignored Naruto, and turned to stare at Hinata, but you won't be helping him anymore. Raiden. Lightning Cannon Jutsu. A 6-inch sphere of lightning formed in his hand, and then shot towards Hinata. Naruto tried to intercept the attack, but Doroku elbowed him away when the boy passed. Lee reached for Hinata, but the half-healed wound in his leg opened, and he stumbled. The lightning ball struck Hinata's left side at the bottom of her rib cage, just under the swell of her. It burned through muscle, bone, and organ, damaging her stomach and left lung. The kunoichi collapsed against the curved stone, spilling blood and acid onto the floor. Hinata. Naruto howled, instantly next to her, kneeling. Nah, she coughed, flecks of blood staining her lips. Sakura appeared a second later, looking slightly nauseous as she appraised the wound. Sakura, help Hinata, Naruto ordered, growling under his breath as he stood again. As he turned to face Doroku, his eyes were glowing red, and the whisker scratches on his cheeks were larger and rougher. Naruto. Inside of him, the nine-tailed fox's rage and bloodlust echoed his own. A small part of him was confused by the demon's anger, but most of him did not care. Just this once, I will lend you my power without reservation or interference. Just promise me you will kill that bastard. Humans can't kill demons, Naruto answered out loud, but I can make him wish I could. Even better, the Kyuubi grinned in sadistic pleasure. Neji's turned sharply away from his cousin, to look at Naruto. Under the Byakugan, Naruto looked different than ever before. The blue and red chakras were mixing, oddly harmonious, until Naruto's entire chakra network was suffused with a silver chakra, stronger, more terrible, and more beautiful than anything the Jonin had ever seen before. Naruto took 2 deep breaths. The first was harsh and ragged, but the second was smooth. The teen now possessed a deadly calm, and the vampire stepped back against his will. Naruto launched a complex series of hand signs, so fast even Neji and Sasuke had a hard time following. Both dojutsu users noted that Naruto was using a 13th seal, unlike any of the others. After 30 gestures, he completed the jutsu, placing his hands together. Ascendant Fox Jutsu. Naruto's arms grew longer, and his fingernails lengthened into razor claws. His face distorted, his nose and mouth distending into a vulpine muzzle. The scratches on his cheeks became true whiskers. His ears moved higher on his head, and stretched into sharp points. Short fur erupted from every inch of his skin. Finally, a fox tail ripped out the back of his pants. Unlike his tailed forms, Naruto's eyes remained human, and blue, and his fur was the same light blonde color as his hair. Impressive. Doroku's banter was more than slightly forced. Shall we start? Not yet, Naruto answered forcefully. He stuck Sakura's kunai into his belt, and then quickly slit his wrist with Hinata's gift. Well, now that I've mastered elemental manipulation, what should I work on next, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto beamed at his teacher. I would hardly say you have mastered it. The Jonin smiled indulgently at the energetic student, but if you are looking for something to work on, let me ask you a question. Okay. You have used the shadow clone jutsu more than most shinobi 2, or even 3 times your age. Kakashi prefaced the question, what are the weaknesses of the technique? Naruto's face screwed up in deep thought at the query. I guess there are 2 major drawbacks, the genin finally said. It takes a lot of chakra, and the clones are pretty fragile. Can you elaborate? The teacher guided his student. Making solid clones takes a decent amount of chakra, even if you're as good at it as I am. And then I have to split my chakra among the clones, both so they can use jutsu, and so that chakra detection doesn't give me away. And on top of that, when the clones die, I don't get back all the chakra. Some of it is always lost. All correct. Kakashi was proud of his normally slow student, and the second weakness. Well, that's a lot simpler. One or two good hits will take out a clone. And how would you fix that? Well, the Mist and Rain ninja make clones from water. And Gaara uses sand. And those clones are both more durable than shadow clones, in their own way. Having something other than pure chakra as the base of the clone makes them harder to kill. Naruto's face scrunched again. The chakra thing is tougher. I suppose the best thing might be to make sure all the chakra from the clones comes back to me. And how would you achieve those goals? Kakashi prompted. Naruto frowned. Well, then, maybe that would be something you could work on, the copy ninja suggested. Naruto's blood sprayed into the air, but almost immediately, the wound healed. Sheathing Hinata's blade, Naruto flashed another series of seals even as the life liquid started to fall. Blood clone jutsu. The blood in the air gathered into 8 spheres, the silver chakra swirling around it. The blood began to expand and change, taking human form. After a few seconds, 8 more fox-shaped Narutos joined the original. The clones began to quickly circle the vampire, hiding which one was the real ninja. Didn't we already do this dance? The demon asked, configuring his hands again, clone disrupt jutsu. None of the 9 Naruto copies so much as shuddered. Fine, then I will just find the original myself. Doroku seemed unnerved by Naruto's quiet rage. He ran forward, pulling the broken blade of the wakizashi into his hand. The monster landed before one Naruto, and carved into the ninja's left arm. Blood flowed freely from the wound, and Naruto paused long enough for the demon to land a solid backhand to the ninja's jaw. The vampire pulled his broken knife back, and the wound closed even as the metal cleared. Well, found the real one first. Doroku jumped back to avoid the genin's counterattack. The blooder quickly jumped at the next Naruto, and sliced him across the chest. Again, the wound bled, but the teen did not exploded. Instead, he caught the weapon before it could cut too deep, and tore it from his opponent's hand. What is this? The demon demanded. In answer, Naruto stabbed his claws into Doroku's right bicep. The fox's ring finger triggered another gusher. The vampire retreated before the human could strike again, only to find he was surrounded by a tight circle of orange and yellow. Naruto's darted from one side of the circle to the other in random turns. Each one slashed the demon as he passed. For the first few dozen passes, nearly every attack caused a spurt of blood, and closed as quickly as Naruto's own injuries. With each pool of blood, Doroku lost chakra and jutsu, and one zombie was granted peace. But in the 4th second, the red fountain slowed, as did the demon's recovery. Then, Doroku started to laugh. Your power is impressive, he crowed, but this is futile. The villain's mirth faded. After you leave, I will just gather my power again. I will rebuild my army, and find new jutsu and Kekkei Genkai. And then I will come to the Konohagakure and I will drink the blood of every person in your village. You can't kill me, so you can't stop me. 18 ice blue eyes narrowed. 8 of the Naruto clones extended their right hands, only the one currently in front of Doroku did not. What? The vampire smirked. Fuden. Rasengan. 4 of the teens announced. An 8-inch green chakra sphere formed above each of their hands. The elemental Rasengan whipped the air, flapping the clothing of even the injured ninja. Raiden. Rasengan. The other 4 ninja clones intoned. These spheres were deeper purple in color than the normal Rasengan. Sparks crackled across the surface, and the fur of the clones holding the spheres stood up. As one, the clones attacked. The first wind sphere tore into the demon's left arm, just below the shoulder. It sliced through the limb until it hung on by only a thread of skin and muscle. The first lightning Rasengan struck the demon's right shoulder blade. The third clone stabbed his Fuden Rasengan into the demon's left knee. Two copies sandwiched the vampire's right side between a pair of Raiden Rasengan. The third green attack glanced down the demon's right forearm, disintegrating the outer third of the limb and hand. The fourth wind-imbued orb ate away at the demon's left hip. The last sparking sphere caught the left side of the demon's head, destroying his ear. The demon could barely stand as the 8 clones withdrew. The last Naruto finally raised his right hand. One small Rasengan formed above each upturned digit. For Hinata, he breathed, charging forward. Doraku could not dodge or block. 5 points Rasengan, Naruto shouted as he thrust his hand to the demon's chest. The spheres burrowed into the vampire's body, and he began to shake. RRRAAAAAAA. Naruto howled, expanding each of the 5 Rasengan another quarter inch. As he did, a 6-inch hole exploded out both the front and back of Doraku's chest. The 5 spheres burrowed out of then demon's body, one through each shoulder and hip, and the last through his brain and out his skull. Blood poured from the 7 wounds, and the Byakugan finally left his eyes. When Naruto withdrew his hand, the demon collapsed in a heap of seemingly random parts. The 9 teens started to turn away. But a harsh and hollow laugh turned them back. Doraku was standing again, through will or chakra, rather than muscle. You just don't get it, he taunted, his voice emerging from both his mouth and chest. Nothing you do can stop me. All you do is buy yourself a few more days while I heal, a few more weeks while I regain power and slaves. And you strengthen my resolve to make your friends suffer. Neji, which way is the way out? Naruto asked. The Jonin quietly pointed down the path opposite the one where he had hunted Lee. As one, 4 of the copies moved. They grabbed the demon, and carried him into the tunnel they had gone down before. They slammed him hard into the wall. 2 of the other clones followed closely behind, and when the demon was secure announced, Futen, Cyclone Spikes Jutsu. 7 miniature green tornadoes shot from each of the genin, but only 8 of the 14 hit. 2 went wide, and 4 of the charka darts passed through the hole in the demon's chest. The Naruto that had used the 5 points Rasengan leapt forward, breaking off a stalactite. He charged forward, pushing the stone cone through the gap in the demon's solar plexus. The rock scraped against the hole dug by the cyclone spikes, pinning the demon. 6 of the clones surrounded Doraku, and summoned Rasengan. But rather than the demon, the blonde shinobi attacked the walls and ceiling. The cavern began to rumble, and the other 3 Narutos used stage 2 Rasengan to prevent the cave-in from spreading back into the dining room. The tunnel collapsed, crushing Naruto's duplicates and burying the demon under tons of stone. Hinata. Naruto's eyes were wide. The Hyuga girl took a shallow breath under Sakura's glowing hands. Her eyes were squeezed shut, and her face was a mask of pain. Against his will, his gaze drifted to the hole through the left center of her torso. Hinata's chest expanded and contracted again. She's breathing. Naruto was confused, but you said. She's not dead yet. But there's nothing I can do. Tears wet Sakura's face as she explained, if I stop the life-sustain jutsu to try and repair the damage, she'll die before I can even start. Even if I were fast enough, she's lost too much blood, and I've already given her all the plasma pills I had. She looked up at Naruto with profound sadness. I thought you would want a chance to say goodbye. But you need to hurry, I'm running out of chakra. Wait. Naruto's mood changed in an instant. So you need blood, chakra, and the life-sustain jutsu. He kneeled next Hinata, opposite Sakura. Neji's focus shifted from his cousin to his rival, with a look of suspicion. I can supply all of that. Naruto looked into Sakura's eyes with determination. But you don't have the same blood type as Hinata, the medical ninja object. Right. He agreed, let's start there. Naruto flashed a series of hand signs, and then placed the first two fingers of his right hand just below his left elbow, stating, "Type O Jutsu." Okay. He looked physically uncomfortable. Blood, check. Start the transfusion. Sakura's surprise faded as she looked down at her hands hopelessly. Right. He grimaced, and slowly went through another group of seals. Life-sustained jutsu, he said, placing his now shining right hand beside Hinata's injury. The dying Kunoichi's face cleared, slightly. Now take my blood, the blonde ninja instructed. With a nod, his teammate released her own support jutsu. Sakura found the vein, and inserted the needle. She found appropriate vessel on Hinata's arm, and connected the two shinobi. Naruto, Sakura looked at him in concern, how long can you keep up those jutsu? Quote, as long as I have to, the genin gasped, now, you need chakra. Naruto moved slowly to avoid dislodging the cannula in his arm. He gently grabbed Sakura's shoulder, and began pouring his chakra into her. Sakura's head snapped up and her eyes dilated. Naruto, she gaped, do you always have this much power? No, he growled, I just finished a fight, and I'm sustaining 2 jutsu. Then his flash of anger turned to contrite sadness, please hurry. Right. The doctor turned her attention back to her patient. She crafted a chakra scalpel, and carefully carved away the charred outer layer of tissue. As she finished, blood began to leak from the now open veins. Cellular trace jutsu. Sakura stimulated Hinata's circulatory system, and the veins, arteries, capillaries regrew and reconnected. Examining the damage to the lung, liver, and stomach, the healer decided she needed support first. So, she touched the jagged edges of her ally's ribs, regenerating the bones. With the skeleton back in place, her jutsu started to repair the damaged organs. Suddenly, Hinata's eyes popped open, and she tried to sit up. But Lee was quicker, and he gently restrained the injured girl. The teen's pale eyes darted widely about, seeing nothing. Hinata, Sakura said firmly, you have to relax. Her pupils focused, and when she realized what was happening, the heir of the Byakugan forced herself to go limp, and closed her eyes again. With the major damage repaired, Sakura took a deep breath and wiped the sweat from her brow. But she knew at this point, Hinata could still die from the same shock that had woken her. And Naruto's immense power could not last forever. Initiating the regeneration jutsu again, she restored Hinata's toned muscles. Finally, the pale skin healed over what should have been a fatal injury. With a sigh, Sakura rocked back to take her weight off her knees. She removed the transfusion tube. Hinata opened her eyes. Sakura, Naruto, she started to say, but as she looked down at her restored abdomen, she turned bright red and trailed off. All other eyes followed her gaze. The outside edge of Naruto's still radiant right hand was pressed firmly against the partially exposed bottom swell of Hinata's ample left. Naruto, Sakura shouted, her eyes burning, you pervert. Naruto yanked his hand away, and all 3 men turned away. I wasn't thinking about that, Naruto argued, hiding the goofy grin as he looked at his hand, I was worried about keeping Hinata alive. Naruto staggered slightly as he removed his jacket and handed it over his shoulder to the girl. Thank you. Hinata was still red as she covered herself. It's okay, Sakura. I know Naruto wasn't thinking anything bad. Where you? Naruto. Naruto. The ninja could not defend himself, as he pitched forward onto the stone floor. Naruto. Sakura and Hinata shouted in unison. Well, it's about time, a familiar voice said. Naruto slowly opened his eyes, and looked up. Grandma Tsunade. He croaked, where am I? The hospital, she answered, I would think you'd recognize it by now. You've been out for 5 days. Then her face turned angry, do you know how incredibly lucky you are? If anyone else had given away that much blood and chakra, they would have been dead. As it is, if Iruka and Anko hadn't found you, you would have died. Iruka-sensei and Anko-sensei. Why? I told you I was sending Jonan to observe the tournament. Fortunately for you, Iruka always carries a handful of plasma pills. It was enough to keep you alive until they could get you back. And Hinata. His voice was little more than a whisper. How is she? The Hokage turned away, so he wouldn't see her expression change. Her eyes softened and she smiled slightly. But she forced her voice to remain harsh. She's fine. I examined her myself. If it weren't for her hair and her jacket, I would never have believed she had a 6-inch hole burned through her chest, no matter the testimony. She is in perfect health, not even a scar to mark the wound. What you and Sakura did, it was nothing short of a miracle. Then she turned back and stalked towards him, and if you ever try it again, I've given orders to let you die. Do you understand me? Yes, ma'am. Good. She stepped back, smiling triumphantly. Now, there are some people waiting to see you. She stepped out of the room, and said, he's awake. You can see him now. But he still needs rest, so one at a time. As the leader of the Leaf Ninja stepped out of the doorway, Naruto already knew who his first visitor would be. For the first time since he had returned to the Konoha, Naruto saw Hinata Hyuga without her oversized lavender jacket. Instead, she wore a medium gray shozoku with short sleeves and knee-length leggings. The garb was fitted more tightly than what she normally wore, and Naruto was surprised and impressed. When she saw him, her eyes became moist. You cut your hair, he said, lightly. She laughed at the off-the-cuff and utterly normal comment. Well, she touched the tips of her locks with a slight smile. I was suddenly missing a large chunk, so I didn't have much choice. He grinned back for a second, but the conversation died out and they stopped smiling. After a few seconds staring at each other, both started fidgeting. How could you? She finally asked. He blinked. How could you put yourself at risk like that? Hinata. I didn't. I was there, she interrupted. Lady Tsunade taught us the life-sustain jutsu at the same time. And I was with you when you learned the typo jutsu. You knew the danger, but you did it anyway. You put yourself at risk for me. Hinata. Ninjas save each other's lives every day. I've taken hits for lots of people. It may have been his weakness, but he didn't sound so sure. This wasn't the same as jumping in front of a kunai. She shook her head. I heard some of what Sakura said back then, and talked to Lady Tsunade when she was examining me. I was essentially dead. You didn't just put yourself at risk to save me, you did it to bring me back from the dead. I had to save you, he said, and she drew closer. I just couldn't let you die, no matter what. Hinata sat down on the side of the bed, staring intently at him. What is it? He asked, uncomfortable. I was just thinking, there is something I haven't said to you. I threw it in your face once, as a weapon, but since that day, I've held it back. She leaned over him, holding his blue eyes with her white ones. I love you, Naruto. Hinata. He started to answer, but she put her finger on his lips to stop him. I know you can't say it back, not yet. And I don't want you to. She drew closer. You wanted me to see you differently, you told my father that. And I do. I have seen more of your darkness and humor than I ever did before. You've shown me your strength and your sadness. And I love you still. She was close enough now, that her hair was a veil around them. He could smell her hair and her lips. She continued to lean closer, and he knew what she intended. She was all he could see. Hinata. Don't. She whispered, I don't want to lose my nerve. Her lips parted slightly. Naruto didn't have the strength to stop or avoid her, and he was not sure he wanted to. Naruto. Hinata pulled back so fast. For a second Naruto was not sure she had ever been that close. Sakura had burst into the room, and was in a rage. "You pervert," Tsunade's apprentice shouted. "How dare you take advantage of Hinata like that? I saved your life, and now I'm hurt. Kiss me and make it better." Then she turned on Hinata. "And you? Naruto is recovering from serious injury, and he doesn't need this kind of stimulation." Hinata's eyes narrowed as she considered Sakura. Then she stood, and walked to the door. "You are right," Hinata told Sakura, "and I will leave you for your visit." She glanced back at Naruto. "I'll see you later, Naruto." Hinata closed the door, and Sakura's face changed. The anger was replaced by worry. "You idiot. Lady Tsunade told me about that blood jutsu you used. Extreme pain, increased heart rate, and reduced blood supply. Never to be used in an uncontrolled transfusion. You must have known how dangerous that was. Using that jutsu for an extended time, and while maintaining other jutsu. I regenerate because of the demon fox. Lady Tsunade taught me the type O jutsu because she knew it was well suited to me. Well, now she told us that if you ever use it that recklessly again, we aren't supposed to help you." "I know." He managed another weak smile. "She said that, too." "Would you actually do it?" "Idiot," she said again, tearing up. "Like I've said before, I already lost Sasuke, I'm not going to lose you. But you have to be more careful." Then she laughed derisively. "Look at who I'm talking to. You don't know how to be careful." He chuckled, and they both relaxed. He asked her a few questions about what had happened after he had lost consciousness. She told him Sasuke had disappeared during the healing. He learned that they had taken him out of the cave, where Anko had found them. After Iruka had administered the plasma pills, he, Lee, and Neji had taken turns carrying Naruto back to the Konoha. After she finished filling him in, she had taken her leave. Lee stood to take his turn, but a tall figure slid in before him, stating, "I only need a minute." Naruto blanched when Hiashi Hyuga walked into the room and closed the door. The lord of the Hyuga clan chuckled when he saw the teen's response. "Last week, I would have given almost anything to see that look on your face." Naruto's panic faded at the enigmatic statement. "What can I do against that?" Hiashi asked, further confusing the teen. "You put your life at risk for my daughter. Anything I say or do against you would make me seem like a bigger jerk than I've already been." "Wait, what?" Naruto blinked, and his shout came out at an almost normal volume. Hiashi bowed his head. "You saved Hinata's life. Whatever you and me daughter are now, whatever you may become in the future, you both have my acceptance." Before Naruto could respond, Hiashi quickly strode out of the hospital room. After she had informed the others she was done, Sakura had left the hospital. "I won't lose to you." Sakura stopped when she heard Hinata address her. "Hinata." She was surprised by both the other kunoichi's unexpected appearance and her unusual statement. "What do you mean?" "It's funny. Everything has reversed. All those years he watched you, and you didn't notice him. Now, he's finally seeing me, and you have started to look at him. You think I like Naruto." Sakura's counter was not as smooth as she would have liked. "You're wrong. He's just a friend, a teammate." Hinata frowned. "Then why interfere, just now? Like I said at the time, I was just worried about you both. I did want Naruto to stain himself, or you to get hurt emotionally." Hinata considered her carefully. Then she walked back towards the hospital. "I won't lose to you," Hinata repeated, as she re-entered the medical center. Finally awake, and able to take solid food, Naruto's recovery hastened. The next morning, Naruto was feeling somewhat better, and tried to leave. But Tsunade put him in his place, pinning him to the bed and insisting he stay at least 3 more days. When he tried to protest, she offered to give him a reason to remain in the hospital longer. Seeing her face, he acquiesced. Choji came to visit him that morning, bearing a box of snack foods. Of course, before he left, the chubby Chunin had consumed almost a quarter of the box himself. After lunch, Hinata had arrived with Shino and Kiba. After a few minutes of conversation, her teammates left Hinata alone with Naruto. Hinata was back to her usual self, and Naruto was not sure if he was more relieved or disappointed that she had not continued, or even acknowledged, their romantic interlude from the previous afternoon. Naruto, however, was uncomfortable. He felt guilty for keeping his secret from Hinata, and worried she knew. And even worse, how would she react when she knew? When Naruto's dinner arrived, Hinata gracefully fled from the prospect of hospital food, promising to return the next day. For the first time since that fateful misunderstanding, Naruto was happy to see her go. With Hinata gone, the weight of his omission was lessened. When he finished eating, the teen found he was exhausted, and realized why the Hokage had insisted he remain. Naruto awoke bored and full of energy again, but the Sanin's threat loomed in his mind and he stayed in bed. Sakura appeared in the middle of the morning, accompanied by Sai. The newest member of Team 7 presented Naruto with his own odd version of a get-well card, a highly detailed painting of a deathly pale Naruto being carried into the Hidden Leaf village by Neji Hyuga. Naruto's dismay and embarrassment were tempered by another pang of guilt when he saw how distraught Hinata looked in the picture. He decided to tell Hinata the truth that very day. Hinata arrived just before lunchtime, bearing food, a deck of cards, and Hanabi. His plans dashed, Naruto tried to act normal while the sisters entertained him. Later that afternoon, Iruka and Anko came to check on Naruto, and the Hyuga girls left. Sister, Naruto was acting strangely, don't you think? Hanabi asked shortly after they exited the hospital. I don't think he wanted me there. No, Hinata sighed, it wasn't you. He was the same yesterday. I fear I made a terrible mistake. Hanabi gazed intently at her older sibling, waiting for her to elaborate. After Naruto woke up, Hinata continued after a few long moments, I told him I love him. And then I tried to kiss him. The young Genin's eyes went wide, and then she laughed, Sister, I did not think you had it in you. But I promised Naruto I would not pressure him. You both promised to accept the other's feelings, Hanabi reminded her. But I still tried to kiss him. I was too forward, and now he feels uncomfortable. If that is true, the younger Kunoichi sounded dubious, then talk to him about it, and try to go back to the way things were before. Hinata simply nodded. She already knew that, but still had fears. His weapons teachers had taken turns berating him. By the time they left, Naruto was ready to sleep, which also had the added benefit of making the day of his release come quicker. Before Naruto had finished breakfast on his third morning, Hinata had arrived, looking worried. She walked over to his bed without speaking, and sat down in the chair, staring at him. Naruto, Hinata, what? Both started speaking at the same time and stopped at the same time, from embarrassment and to allow the other to continue. But neither continued, and the anxious silence returned. After almost a minute, Hinata opened her mouth again, but she was interrupted when the door opened again. Kakashi walked in the room, then paused when the palpable tension hit him. Hi, Hinata, the Jonin greeted her, I should have guessed you would be here. I need to talk to Naruto, alone. Could you maybe come back after lunch? That's when the Hokage said Naruto will be released. She nodded, and hurried from the room, glad for the excuse. That was awkward, Kakashi noted. Did something happen between you two? No, But I've been feeling bad that I haven't told Hinata about the QB. I think she's noticed, and is worried. Anyway, Naruto's eyes narrowed. Are you here to lecture me too? Kakashi sat down, and explained, Lady Tsunade asked me to interview the five of you about your little adventure. You're the last. And as your teacher, I'm curious about some of the things the others have said. So let's hear your version. Naruto recounted the tale as he remembered it. In this version, he destroyed a few more zombies, and managed to avoid all of Sasuke's attack, but Kakashi let the minor embellishments slide. He was after more important information. The blonde genin faltered when he described the attack that nearly killed Hinata. You can skip that, if you wish, the teacher offered. I already got a detailed description from Sakura. I want to know what happened next. Neji said your chakra and the fox's chakra mixed. Yeah. Naruto turned thoughtful. Back then, the fox offered to let me use her power for free. She seemed as angry as I was. I ignored it at the time, but now it seems odd to me. Why would the QB be angry over Doroku attacking Hinata? She, her, Kakashi considered that change in nomenclature a moment, before answering. You said the fox spirit already knew this vampire, Doroku, and did not like him. And the QB is not known to have a calm personality. I suspect, she, was already enraged, and you only noticed when you became angry too. Naruto's eyes narrowed in thought, and he frowned, but he finally nodded. That makes sense. And then you used a new transformation jutsu. Neji also noticed you used a different hand sign in that jutsu. Yeah. Naruto suddenly became anxious. He configured his hands to show his mentor. At first glance, it resembled the dragon seal. Unlike the dragon, only Naruto's first two fingers were laced, with both of the bottom digits extended. And instead of curled and together, his thumbs were separated, and sticking straight up. After a moment of examination, Kakashi understood. Naruto, is that? Yeah, Naruto admitted, it's the fox hand sign. But I haven't been able to use the Ascendant Fox Jutsu since. I've tried. And I can't do the Fuden or Raiden Rasengan alone, either. I need clones again. And that other new jutsu, Kakashi masked his relief carefully. The blood clone jutsu, Naruto clarified, I guess it's new, but that wasn't the first time I used it. Only the first time I used it in front of other people. I've been working on it like you suggested. Using blood for the base makes the clones more stable, and almost as tough as the original. And thanks to the link between blood and chakra, I always get all my energy back from the clones. Unfortunately, it does take more chakra to form the blood clones. A jutsu only someone with your regenerative powers and high level of chakra could use effectively, Kakashi thought to himself. Well, what happened next? Naruto finished the tale of his one-sided battle with the demon, and healing Hinata. Kakashi asked him a few more questions, and then stood up to leave. I hope the Hokage releases you, the Jonin offered. We have a mission tomorrow, and it won't be the same without you. Then just before he exited, he stopped. Oh, one more minor thing. Kakashi pretended to remember a minor detail. When Hinata defeated the Tsukiyomi, did you notice anything unusual? Oh, I had forgotten that. Naruto nodded, his lips pursed, her eyes turned silver. Like real metal, not just gray. And then Doroku said something about truth eyes reflecting illusions. Alright, I'll see you tomorrow, Naruto. Just after noon, Tsunade stopped in, and pronounced Naruto fit to leave. His excitement was tempered by the fact Hinata had not returned. He dressed slowly, still hoping she would appear. Finally, he left the hospital alone. Naruto. Just outside the medical building, the voice he had wanted to hear stopped him. Hinata emerged from the hospital behind him, slightly out of breath. I thought I was too late, She said, I need to talk to you. Will you come with me? He nodded, and followed her. His unease grew. If he truly meant to tell her, he was out of excuses. She led him back to the park where they had commiserated after becoming Tsunade's students. She found a bench in the wooded area, and sat. Naruto followed suit. I'm sorry, Naruto, she began to talk quickly. I broke out agreement. I said, I love you, and tried to kiss you. And now you're angry and uncomfortable. So please, forget it happened. Can we just go back to the way things were before? Her misunderstanding eased his burden slightly, enough for him to reassure her. Hinata, I'm not mad, and I don't want you to take it back. I might be unsure of my own feelings, but you don't have to hide yours. I may be trying to be a nice guy here, but I'm still a 15-year-old, who spent way too much time around Jiraiya. There's no way I'd be upset about a hot girl trying to make out with me. She blushed a little, and for a moment looked happy. But then she remembered the source of her fears. But the way you've been acting. This distance is all me, he finished for her. There's something I've kept from you, and it's been weighing on me the last few days. But I've decided to tell you, no matter how you might react. She stared at him with a different kind of apprehension. Naruto took a deep breath, and started to explain. I know why I was shunned and hated most of my life, he told her, though I only found out a few years ago, just before I became a genin. I know why when you look at me through the Byakugan, you see two different colors of chakra. And I know why my mom apologized to me before she died. Naruto lifted his shirt, and as a testament to both the gravity of the situation and her own personal growth, Hinata did not even blush. Naruto focused his chakra, and the 8 trigram divination seal became visible across his stomach. I am still not comfortable with you knowing this, Hiashi Hyuga addressed Kakashi Hatake roughly. No one in the Konohagakure is supposed to know this, outside of the Hyuga clan leaders and the Hokage. Even the 4th Hokage was never informed, because the 3rd was still alive. The information is out there, the Sharingan user shrugged, for those who want to put it together. Though I still don't have the whole story. I just know that there is a link between sealed demons and Kekkei Genkai. And you won't leave it alone, will you? Tsunade observed Minato's apprentice. Not when it could impact my student. Kakashi's previous humor had faded. If we are going to tell him, I will have a blood oath of silence, Hiashi demanded. I thought I was done with blood oaths when I left the Anbu Black Ops, Kakashi groused. Unfortunately, I am inclined to agree with Hiashi, Tsunade answered, this secret is too dangerous. Alright, the Jonin agreed. Kakashi removed his vest and shirt. He split his right thumb, and drew the kanji for honor over his heart in blood. I, Kakashi Hatake, swear not to discuss, reveal, or use anything I know about the origins of Kekkei Genkai or the link between demons and bloodline traits, except with Hiashi Hyuga or the Hokage, or Naruto Uzumaki, should becoming necessary for him to know. Should I attempt to break this oath, I will lose all knowledge and memory of the taboo subjects. The blood started to glow, and faded into his chest. Satisfied, the copy ninja asked, dressing. I suppose that will do, Hiashi sighed. Tsunade smirked at his attitude. Then tell me all of it. First, tell us what you know, the Hokage instructed. Only the basics. That most, if not all, Kekkei Genkai were born out of demons sealed within humans. I don't know if there are other special circumstances, limitations, or the precise mechanics. Not all, Hinata's father muttered. Tsunade turned back to the Lord of the Hyuga, who sighed. During the first ninja wars, some 250 years ago, he started at the beginning, it was a common tactic to summon demons. Though many of the monsters could not be controlled, Simply summoning one in the midst of the enemy could kill hundreds. The tactic was difficult to counter, because humans cannot kill demons, and summoning a second demon to battle to first was worse than suicide. Which is why after the war, demon summoning techniques were forbidden. Kakashi was familiar with the history. The only way to stop the demons was to seal them, Hiashi continued, and humans were the vessels of choice. Humans were ideal for two reasons. The demon's host always gained at least a measure of the spirit's power, and when the human died, there was a chance the demon would die too. Not a large chance, Tsunade added, and the longer the demon was trapped the better. So during the war, thousands of demons were confined in human bodies. And that was when they started to notice. Hiashi stared at the floor. Most of those with demon essences were taken over, or went completely insane. 1 in 30 remained more or less stable. And of those, less than 1 in 20 were as in control and mentally sound as Naruto is. And with the stable ones a few dozen melded completely. In time, the demons simply faded away, leaving the host's DNA permanently imprinted with the spirit's power and essence. That is the original of most Kekkei Genkai. Not all of them, there are those that can't be traced to a demon possession. Like the Sharingan, Madara's Uchiha was born into the Hyuga clan, but was abandoned because he did not have the Byakugan. But somehow, he developed the Sharingan later. So that is why you are so worried about Naruto's chakra truly mixing with the Kyuubi's, and the demon helping him, Kakashi concluded. Just carrying the demon isn't enough, they have to truly join. But why would that be so bad? After the first ninja war, there was a demonic arms race, the Hokage explained. The various clans and villages continued to seal away demons, hoping to give birth to another bloodline trait. Eventually the elders of the various groups came together, Hiashi noted, and crafted a jutsu to erase this knowledge from the minds of all other ninja. They retained the information themselves, so they could prevent any future abuse. And then the Council of Shadows was convened, Tsunade concluded, and the 5 Kage, along with 3 leaders of Kekkei Genkai clans became the guardians of the secret. The 4th Hokage just wanted everyone to treat me normally. And the 3rd forbid anyone to talk about the demon. But people didn't see me, only the fox. Or they were afraid the Kyuubi would break free. Though no one told their kids, the hatred rubbed off anyways. Even now, more people have accepted me, but there will always be those who hate me, and most others have a certain level of mistrust. And it isn't unearned. I have lost control before. When my normal chakra runs out, I tap the fox's power, and sometimes she has gained control of me. That's what your dad meant. If you are with me, they will probably view you the same way. And if the Kyuubi takes over while I'm around you, Naruto almost told her he would understand if she did not want to spend time with him. He realized he would just be pressuring, taunting her to stay. Hinata just looked at him, not saying anything. Then she took his hand, allowing his shirt to fall back into place. You are Naruto Uzumaki, ninja of the Hidden Leaf Village. No monster inside you will change that. Then she hugged him, not in romance, but in comfort. Is everyone here? Tsunade asked. She looked around, tallying off the teen shinobi filling her office. Naruto took note of the 7 chunin present. Tenten was standing next to Tsunade's desk, while Ino, Shikamaru, Choji, Rock Lee, Sakura, and Hinata stood against the wall. Also present were the newly promoted Iruka, and a 20-something Kunoichi. She had long purple hair and deep purple eyes. Naruto thought she looked familiar, but could not recall her name or where he had seen her before. We can begin then, the Hokage continued. As you may know, Tenten has been on a mission for the past month. I can now tell you that she has been undercover, as a high school student. We have heard rumors of an attempt to kidnap the daughter of the daimyo of the Land of Fire. So, Tenten was sent to pose as an exchange student. And sure enough, she was able to thwart an attempt to take the girl. Their leader leaned forward with a fierce look, but it turns out that the abduction Tenten stopped was not the real plan. Instead, it was one of the underlings, trying to kiss up to his boss. Unfortunately, he is too much of a peon to know who is orchestrating this crime, but he did know when the real kidnapping is to take place. She leaned back again, with a slight grin. The daimyo's daughter is going on a school trip to Daikayo Villa in the Land of Waves. They will be outside the Land of Fire, and are not the only school visiting. All of you will be going undercover as Tenten's classmates. Uruka and Yugao will be leading the mission, and taking the role of your teaching chaperones. Does this really take 10 ninja? Shikamaru asked. Probably not, Tsunade agreed, but this is politics. The fact that there was one attack means the threat is real. And this is the daughter of the ruler of our country, so a show of force and commitment is called for. Also, we need to send enough bodies to maintain the appearance of a real group of high school students on a trip. Then why not include Kiba, Neji, and Shino? Hinata asked. Kiba's clan markings are too obvious, and the hotel doesn't allow pets anyways. Neji has his cursed seal. Hinata flinched when the Sannin said that, and there is a reason Shino is always covered from the neck down. All of you will need to pass as civilians, and without using jutsu. Which reminds me, she drew a small case out of her desk, and tossed it to Hinata. Colored contacts, the leader of the Konoha explained. Based on the skill of criminal we caught, this will probably be an easy mission, the Hokage offered, and most of you are in need of vacation. Take turns watching the girl, but also get some rest and have some fun. And I shouldn't need to remind you of this, but it is an undercover mission, so no headbands, minimal weapons, and only civilian clothes and swimsuits. Hinata's head jerked up at that, and she quickly hid a look of terror. But a certain sharp-eyed blonde caught the reaction. You leave tomorrow afternoon, so you will need to be ready then. All of you are dismissed, except for Naruto and Uruka. After the others had shuffled out, the Hokage addressed Naruto. Naruto, this is your first undercover assignment. She watched him with concern, and to be honest, I'm not sure I trust you not to mess it up. So, you're gonna ask Uruka-sensei to keep an extra eye on me. Naruto, his teacher chided his lack of respect. No, that goes without saying, the Hokage grinned. No, I have a special mission for the two of you before you go. Really? The genin got excited. What is it? Uruka. She spoke to the Jonin instead. I've seen Naruto's fashion sense. Or total lack thereof. Take him shopping, and make sure he has appropriate clothing for the week. Yes, ma'am, Uruka answered with a chuckle. Oh man, is that it? In the hall Hinata tentatively called, Tenten. What is it, Hinata? The brown-eyed girl asked. Can I talk to you for a minute? Sure. Ino grabbed Sakura's arm as they rounded the corner, and stopped her romantic rival. Wah! Haruno started to ask what she was doing, but the blonde Kunoichi shushed her. Did you see Hinata back there? Ino whispered, I want to hear this. It's just, Hinata was struggling to find the words, I don't have a swimsuit. I mean, I still have my academy swimsuit, but I don't think it will fit. And it has the Konoha leaf on it. She fidgeted, I've never bought a swimsuit before and this is the first time Naruto will see you in a suit, and you want to look nice, Tenten supplied. Hinata nodded and looked down at her feet. Hinata. Tenten took her arm with a smile. It would be my honor to help you find a swimsuit that will knock Naruto's socks off. Thank you, Tenten. You know, I could use a new suit, too, Ino said conspiratorially. Looking at her face, Sakura knew what her competitive friend intended. Maybe we should leave them alone, the pink-haired Kunoichi suggested, but her inner spirit shouted, no way, I'm letting Ino or Hinata look better than me. Alright Hinata, what are your measurements? Naruto's head popped up above a pile of Hawaiian shirts, when he heard Tenten's voice across the store. My measurements. Hinata stuttered, then quietly mumbled, 5 feet, 5.5 inches, Naruto answered under his breath, 103 pounds, 32b-24-33. What was that, Naruto? His escort asked. Oh, nothing, Iruka-sensei, the teen hid his face from his teacher. Did you find anything? No, they're all pretty ugly, Naruto lied, I'm gonna go over there and look at sandals. Naruto slid silently across the store, hiding behind various racks of clothing. Then he saw the two Kunoichi, standing in front of the swimsuits. Each was wearing a loose-fitting shirt and shorts, to facilitate changing clothes. And Hinata was blushing furiously. Naruto was torn. His hormones and Jiraiya's training both urged him to get closer. But his respect for Hinata told him to leave. Then Tenten held up a bikini for Hinata's consideration, and any thoughts of leaving were abandoned. Oh, no, I don't think, Hinata stammered looking at the slight two-piece. Okay, the may be too much to start, Tenten acknowledged, putting the suit back, this one is my size. 5 feet 7 inches, 98 pounds, 30a-2430, Naruto mumbled instinctively. So what are we going to work on first? Naruto asked. Upon arriving at Jiraiya's mansion, the young genin had not even bothered to settle in before begging his new sensei to start their training. Settle down, Naruto, the toad sage waved his hands to emphasize. Then his face twisted in a perverted grin, and a gleam appeared in his eye. All right, Naruto, Jiraiya proclaimed imperiously, I'm going to teach you one of my most important techniques. The ability to properly size up any opponent. Of course, rather than teach the boy how to evaluate another ninja's taijutsu or chakra levels, the pervert had instead drilled Naruto until the young genin could tell any woman's measurements at a glance. Already familiar with the female form from his sexy jutsu, now only the bulkiest of clothes could conceal a girl's figure from his piercing blue eyes. Tenten set aside the green bikini she had chosen for herself, and took down a lavender tankini and mid-shorts combo for Hinata to try. Hinata, Tenten, a loud voice called across the store. Ino's greeting was full of false warmth and sharp jealousy. It looks like great minds really do think alike, she simpered as she sauntered over. If we want to fit in with normal students, we'll need new swimsuits before our vacation. She looked at the swimsuit Tenten had handed to Hinata, and smirked. I didn't think that was exactly your style, Hinata. The Hyuga princess's eyes narrowed. She snatched up the string bikini Tenten had first offered her, and strode proudly into the dressing room. So Sakura and I were talking. Ino suddenly realized she was alone. Where is Sakura? Oh, the genin knocked over a stack of sandals as a panic gripped him. As he bent over to pick up the footwear, he felt a sudden, murderous intent pushing down on him. Naruto, Sakura growled. When he looked up, he could have sworn he could see fire in the Kunoichi's eyes. Are you spying on Hinata and Tenten? Trying to see them changing? Sakura demanded, raising her fist to prepare to wallop him. No, Naruto insisted, Grandma Tsunade sent me here with Iruka to buy new cloths for the mission. She doesn't think I have anything suitable to wear. His answer was both honest and plausible. Sakura turned, and caught sight of their teacher looking at shirts. Some of her anger faded, and was replaced by equal parts doubt. Then what are you looking at them? She lowered her hand slightly, but did not stop glaring at him. I was over here looking for flip-flops, when I heard Ino shouting, and naturally I looked. Alright, Sakura nodded. Then she grabbed a pair of blue sandals in his size and thrust them into his hands. These will be fine for you. Then she grabbed Naruto's collar, and dragged him back to Iruka. Sensei, you lost something, she said, dropping Naruto next to the newly minted Jonin. Oh, thank you, Sakura. Iruka eyed Naruto suspiciously. Please keep him over here, okay? She requested. Naruto, what were you doing? The teacher asked after Sakura left. I was just trying to see what kind of swimsuit Hinata is going to pick out, the genin answered defensively. Naruto, you'll get to see Hinata's new swimsuit plenty over the next week, Iruka lectured, you need to show some more respect. Come on sensei, don't you want to see what kinds of tastes those girls have? First off, Iruka answered, they are all my students. Second, I have respect for women. And then he trailed off, mumbling under his breath, and if she heard I was looking at teenaged Kunoichi, I probably wouldn't survive. Naruto's ears twitched, then he smirked at his teacher. Who, Iruka-sensei? Lady Tsunade. Iruka tried to cover his deception with a cough. The Hokage charged me with undoing Master Jiraiya's influence on you. Now, come on, let's hurry up and get out of here. Fine, Naruto grumbled, trying to catch a glimpse of the kunoichi as he picked out shirts. Naruto was the first in front of the ninja operations building the next morning. He wore a simple blue shirt and khaki shorts. He set his overstuffed backpack on the ground, and sat down next to it to wait. He did not have to wait long before Hinata joined him. Good morning, Naruto, she offered, placing her bag next to his. Hey, hi, wow. Naruto turned to look at the girl, and his greeting was interrupted by his exclamation of amazement. The kunoichi wore a simple yellow camisole sundress, fitted tightly on top, and flaring at the waist down to just above her knees. Her hair was pulled back in a loose braid, highlighting the shape of her face. She blushed slightly under his amorous gaze. What do you think? She twirled to give him the full view, then asked, will I pass for normal? No, Naruto answered as if the question was foolish, and Hinata blanched. Then he grinned and continued, you look way better than normal. She blushed again and smiled, you don't look so bad yourself. Naruto was surprised and happy when he realized Hinata was flirting with him. Then he noticed something else. Hinata, your eyes. Oh, I'm wearing the contacts Lady Tsunade gave me. Then she looked a little worried, do they look alright? Are they straight? I like your real eyes better, but blue isn't bad. Hinata carefully tucked her dress under as she sat next to him. She continued to regard him with a happy grin. Sakura arrived next, garbed in a pink tank top and blue jean shorts. She looked at the two ninja with a touch of annoyance. Good morning. I should have guessed you two would be the first here, she said, then inner Sakura added, or rather Naruto would be the first one here, and Hinata would be trailing after. Have either of you two been to the beach before? Hinata asked as Sakura settled in across from them. On missions, Naruto answered, but I've never had a vacation before. Oh, of course, Hinata's joy diminished at her faux pas. Same here, Sakura answered, regarding Naruto with veiled pity, my family never went to the ocean. How about you Hinata? Just once, not long after Hanabi was born, Hinata offered, I don't remember it well. The trio lapsed into silence. Before long, Rock Lee appeared, and then Tenten. The young shinobi started to talk about what they had heard about the resort, and what they hoped to do. Naruto grew more excited by the minute, only barely noticing when Yugao, Ino, Choji, and finally Shikamaru arrived. Ooh, I can't wait. Naruto leapt to his feet suddenly, let's get going. He started walking west, until he noticed no one else was moving and that they were all staring at him. What? Naruto? Iruka-sensei is not here yet, Hinata offered. Shikamaru placed his hand to his forehead in dismay. Hey, idiot, the lackluster genius stabbed his finger into his palm to emphasize. You don't think we're walking all the way to the land of waves, do you? Why not? I've done it before. Civilian high school students don't have the speed or stamina of ninja, Sakura explained. They wouldn't travel to the resort on foot. Iruka is getting our transportation, Yugao informed them, and unless I miss my guess, there he is now. The teens heard a low rumbling, and a 20-foot bus rolled into the square. The younger shinobi gawked, but Yugao just walked over to the automobile. A bus? Where did it come from? Naruto darted around the conveyance, examining it. The Konoha keeps a small number of vehicles on hand for missions, Iruka told him. Automobiles are expensive and rare, but certain governments and companies are starting to make more use of them. Schools in the lands of fire and earth use buses to ferry students, both for safety and speed. He opened the storage compartment. Stow your luggage and get on board, the male Jonin instructed. We need to roll out. The ninja threw their bags in the bus, and then boarded. Naruto slid into one of the benches and reclined. Ah, traveling in style, the others grinned and chuckled in agreement. Hey, Iruka-sensei, Naruto sat back up and looked at his teacher. Where'd you learn to drive? All chunin who are of legal age are taught to drive, Yugao answered for him. Do Lee and Tenten know how to drive? Ino asked. No, you must be 20 to drive. Lee's response was disappointed, not merely an adult. Everyone sit down, Iruka instructed, we're leaving. And then the gas explodes, pushing the first piston down and the second piston up. That pulls more gas into the first piston, and puts the second piston in place. Then the process repeats, Hinata explained. Huh? Naruto looked amazed. That's really cool. How do you know about engines, Hinata? Oh, I saw inside one with the Byakugan on a mission. It was so strange, with so many moving parts, she told him. I was curious, so when we got back I started to read up on automobiles. Hinata and Naruto are sure getting close. Ino moved next to Sakura, and whispered conspiratorially. So, Sakura snapped under her breath. So, you don't seem too happy with the situation, Ino observed her rival intently. I don't care if Naruto and Hinata are friends. And if they're more than friends, Ino insinuated. I'm not letting you have Sasuke, the pink-haired Kunoichi suddenly stated, still keeping her voice down. But her attempt to turn the conversation back on Ino failed. If you still want him, he's yours, she snorted, brooding. Angsty loners might be my type, but murderous, revenge-obsessive traitors are not. I moved on. But, Naruto, Ino needled again, who'd have thought he'd turn out like this? He used to be short, inept, and annoying. Now he's tall, talented, and reliable. If I thought I stood a chance, I might make a play for him myself. Sakura turned to look out the window with a grunt of disgust. First Hinata, now Ino, she thought, why do they think I have feelings for Naruto? I mean, of course I have feelings for him, he's my teammate and friend. But not romantic feelings. Not for that knucklehead. How could I?